Hi everyone, I'm back and today I've got some more Battlefield 4. However, today's video is going to be a little bit different than usual. I'm going to have a informational video telling you guys how you can get better at Battlefield 4. Now of course all this stuff I'm going to say is all really sort of theoretical, but really the best way to get better is to just practice just like anything else. Just play maps and things like that and just slowly get better. But if you follow these tips, I can almost guarantee that you'll improve at least somewhat. Also, know that I am no pro. I have never competed in anything that's competitive in terms of Battlefield. I, of course, have played sports, things like that, but I have not played competitive Battlefield or any other game for that matter. However, what I can tell you is I can walk into a server most of the time and say, okay, I want to be at the top of the server this round, and do it. So if you want to be able to do that, have that control over how you play, these tips are at least what help me to do well, and I hope they also help you. Also, last thing I'll mention before I get started with this video, some of the gameplay you'll see in here is actually me playing with X Factor, another YouTuber guy, and had a lot of fun with that guy. I'm not really as big of a fan of his channel. I'm sure he's like really awesome and things like that. I just haven't really watched him that much, like as much as I watch other people's channels. So if you like him, I hope you enjoy some gameplay with him. But yeah, so let's get started. So first off is your hardware. So I recommend that you play on something. I mean, I play on the PC, but if you play on consoles, it's totally fine. But if you do play on the PC, what I think you probably should have is something that can play the game at maybe 1280 by 720p and be able to run at something around 60 FPS. If you can get above 30, that's better. I really don't find that you have to have really good graphics. Like if you can play at low settings, you're probably gonna be fine. The main thing that's important when playing a game, especially like this, a first-person shooter, in my opinion, is good resolution and good frame rates. So try to get that resolution as high as you can, try to get the frame rate as high as you can, and you should be good to go for the most part. Okay, so the other thing is you should probably work on having decent aim. So what that means is maybe going into the practice range in Battlefield 4 and messing around with that. But usually what I find helps is playing other games actually. So playing something like Natural Selection. Natural Selection is an amazing game if you want to improve your aim. Another game is Loadout if you want to play Loadout. Loadout's actually it's a pretty goofy game, but at its core is a game where you have to be able to keep your cursor or your reticule over the enemy player for a lot longer than you would most other games like Call of Duty, Battlefield, those modern shooters. And if you can get good at keeping your cursor over someone and aiming for the head, things like that, you're going to do a lot better in games like Battlefield 4. Okay, third is using the minimap. If you don't use the minimap already, or you just sort of, it's there, but you don't take advantage of it, start using it. The minimap is one of the most essential tools you can use on the battlefield. If you see someone that's next to you or someone that is within range of the minimap, then they are fair game. You need to know that they're there and know that they're close to you and that they can probably see you too. So what the minimap is also useful for is if you use a silencer, it can keep you off of it. A lot of other good players will use the minimap in order to find potential targets. If you're using a silencer, they'll just see their dead friends dropping all over the map, but they won't know where you are. So when possible, use a silencer, but when you see little Doritos or triangles or whatever you want to call them on the minimap, make sure you know they're there, and if you can, try to sneak up behind them, get those flanks off. Okay, so that brings up the fourth point, which is flanking, or also laning. So if you guys have ever played a MOBA or different games like Counter-Strike, things like that, you'll understand what laning is. Basically, it's where there's different lanes that run through the map that run parallel to each other and sort of connect the two sides. And so a lot of people don't really know this, but Battlefield 4 is actually a pretty lane-based game. You need to be able to control certain lanes. So for example, Operation Locker is the best example of this. You basically have 3 lanes. You have the one lane that's outside in the snow, you have one lane that's in the interior on the center of the map, and you also have this other sort of side lane that runs parallel to both of those, that go under the map, that runs right near the B flag and sort of takes you up those stairs into sort of the like medical room where you can shoot the lights out and things like that. So you basically have these 3 lanes, and different teams at different points will control those lanes. And if you can control those lanes more than the opposite team, most of the time you're going to win. You're going to be able to get those points, whether you're in domination, conquest, rush, it doesn't matter. Controlling those lanes and using teamwork to control them is what's going to allow you to win the game. Now, I did mention flanking, but I basically talked about flanking more in a previous video of mine, but basically it's the idea that you sneak up on an enemy by coming from their rear. When you come up from behind, a lot of people won't be able to react in time to the threat of you coming up to get them. So flanking, I mean, it's been used for like centuries in actual war. So it makes sense that it's going to be useful in a game like this. Of course, there's going to be a lot more sort of twitch shooting and things like that than are possible in real life. But even in video games, flanking is an absolutely essential tool that you need to use to get up behind and get those kills as much as possible. Okay, so the next thing is, after you've gotten decent aim and you followed all the rest of these things, it's time to start doing more advanced things, and that means aiming for the head. Now, Battlefield is not like Counter-Strike, where if you miss the head, if you don't go for the head at the competitive level, then you're scrub. Like you can't do anything if you don't aim for the head in Counter-Strike at high up levels. But in Battlefield, luckily, it's a little bit more forgiving. If you don't aim for the head, a lot of the time you can still do well. But however, you'll see that the people that are at the top of the scoreboard that you may die to a lot, I know I did, I wondered, how are these guys killing me in just a few shots? Like, that doesn't make sense. But when I looked back and saw, what are they doing that's allowing them to do this, I realized, oh, they're hitting headshots. When they come around a corner, their cursor isn't just aimed at the enemy's chest like I usually sort of run around. They run around with their cursors up, ready to take the headshots of the enemy. So if you can, try to take headshots as much as possible, aim for the head. Sometimes it's a little bit scary because you're not going to be able to hit as many shots if you're aiming for the head. But if you say like 5 shot, you take 5 shots at an enemy, and 5 of those shots hit if you're aiming at the chest. But then when you shoot those same 5 shots near the head, maybe 2 or 3 of them hit. I think that's something that has sort of pushed me away from wanting to use, aiming for the head. But I found that when I do actually aim for the head, and even though I will miss more shots because I'm aiming for the head, those fewer shots that hit the head will do more damage than if I just shot more bullets that hit the enemy on the chest. So I hope that makes sense, but basically the takeaway is, if you have decent aim, try to go for the head. You're going to have a better time. Okay, so the 6th tip is pre-firing. So what that means is when you come around a corner and you know someone's going to be there, you start firing before you round the corner. So this is really essential when you have bad netcode like in Battlefield 4. In any other game, usually you don't really have to do this unless you are 100% certain that they are coming around that corner, that they are running around that corner, and they're about to get on top of you. That's the only time you really have to use it. It's really useful actually in games like in Insurgency. I actually use that quite a bit. But in Battlefield, you need to be able to do that because of the crappy netcode. So try to do that as much as possible pre-firing. And you're going to be able to get sort of the drop on a lot of targets before they even know you're there. Okay, number 7, getting good with vehicles. You need to be able to use each vehicle at least decently. So what that means is mainly the tanks and the air vehicles. So you have, of course, about 3 main different types of tanks: anti-air, LAV, and your main tank, your main battle tank. And getting good with those tanks will allow you to really dominate land-based combat. A lot of the levels in Battlefield 4, like Conquest and sort of Rush, Obliteration, a lot of those will have you being able to use tanks. And you'll notice that a lot of the teams that will win those game modes had a tank that was just like a thorn in your side. Like, I know there's been thousands of Rush games I've played where there's a stupid tank on something like Golmud Railway that just is able to take me out whenever I try to plant, and there's just nothing that I can do to try to take it out. I put a few rockets into him, he gets repaired, he goes behind cover, and I mean, part of that has to do with the way the maps are balanced, the way they're they give cover to vehicles. And that actually brings up another point. If you want to get good at using tanks, you need to sort of think of it as like a big lumbering infantry unit. Try to use cover. I see a lot of people that when they aren't using tanks successfully, they're just sort of going straight into battle. If you want to do well with a tank, and this actually sort of carries on to the attack boat, which of course was introduced in this game. You need to be able to use cover, like large rock formations, sort of things like that, to be able to try to avoid taking rocket damage as much as possible. When that comes to sort of flying, that just means going into an air superiority map or something like that and just sort of grinding, trying to figure out, okay, what's the turning radius I can do with these planes, things like that. And then that also boils down to the need to stay around 300 speed when you're in the jets. I'm actually probably going to make a sort of flying tutorial video pretty soon, start giving away some of the tactics, some of the strategy, and also some of the techniques you can use to try to lose people. So that'll be coming soon, but I'm not going to focus too much on that. So also another essential thing you need to be able to do in the battlefield is understanding engagement distances. This means you don't take a shotgun to shoot someone at long range. It's not going to work. So stop doing it. You need to understand what different ranges your weapons are going to be able to do. Carbines are usually going to be pretty good at medium to close. Assault rifles are pretty good for medium to long. Sometimes medium to close if you got a FAMAS or AEK. And shotguns are going to be basically only close range. Snipers are basically only long range unless you're 420 blaze it, 360 no scope type of guy. Know the engagement ranges of the different weapons, and you're going to be able to use them a lot more effectively on the battlefield. And what that means too is that if you have a shotgun and you're playing in something like Operation Mortar, you're not going to go outside in the snowy map. And when I play a shotgun in that map, I never go outside because the engagement distances are usually medium to long range. And I'm going to be useless. I'm just going to be bantha fodder for people out there that have snipers or assault rifles. So stay indoors if you're doing something like that. But if you are going to snipe on that map, you want to stay out in the snow. So things like that. Understand where the weapons will be useful at, and you're going to do a lot better. Okay, tap firing. If you don't tap fire already, you need to start tap firing in this game to do a lot better. Tap firing means that when you press the trigger, you don't hold it down for a long auto burst. You only hold it down, you click, it rates maybe something like this. Click, 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 something like that, and you're clicking, you're tap firing, you're dragging down on your mouse or you're pulling down with your joystick. It basically just means that you're going to be a lot more accurate. You're gonna, if you have a high first shot recoil, it'll be really difficult to sort of counter that, but for the most part, you are going to have less recoil than you usually would otherwise. So learn to tap fire, to burst fire, and good to go. Okay, this last point, these last 2 points are something that have saved me multiple times in this game. And I think that if you like, I started playing Battlefield on, quite frankly, pretty crappy computers. But luckily when Battlefield 4 came out, I sort of shoveled a little money to get a better computer. But if you are playing on a computer that doesn't have, Titans and things, that crazy stuff, and even my computer right now, I don't have that stuff. But if you don't have the ability to run it on a super mega computer, there's these 2 tactics that are going to allow you to do really well with limited hardware. And there's something that I sort of had to use, especially for Battlefield 3 and things like that. So the first one is feigning or sort of rusing the enemy player. So I cannot tell you how many times I run past an enemy that may be like at medium distance or something. Like he's not super close to me, but I can sort of see him down a hallway or something, and I continue on as if I didn't see him, and then I get out of sight of of where I can see him or he can see me, yet he still saw me, and he assumes that I didn't see him. Like, he'll come rounding the corner thinking, oh yes, free kill, this guy is completely oblivious, and I'll be ready there with my reticle up, and I'll just take him out. Using that tactic of sort of using the psychology of what is the other player thinking right now? Is he watching me cross and is he thinking it's an easy kill? Is he sort of suspicious? Is he cautious? Keeping all those things in mind, yet still trying to ruse the other player is a really useful tactic, especially when you have bad hardware and you know that if you just tried to clutch the shot and just sort of turn on him and start shooting at him, if you know that that's not going to be an option, either because your hardware won't give you the frames to do that, or you just don't have the best of aim, try to ruse, try to feign, try to throw them off and do something that they aren't expecting. And the last one is pretty obvious, but understand the netcode, guys. The netcode sucks. It's complete utter garbage. So when you go and play this game, if you know that you shouldn't be peeking at certain times because you'll get picked off even though you're clearly behind cover, then don't peek during those times. Peek another angle and you'll survive for a lot longer. But you can also use your knowledge of the netcode to allow you to take other people out. If you see them peeking, even though they might be behind cover when you're shooting, take a few extra shots, because sometimes their hitbox may still be above the cover and you may not even know it just because the netcode sucks so bad. So please use these tips, guys, and I guarantee you'll see some sort of improvement. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you got something out of it. Don't forget to leave a comment if you liked what you saw. Subscribing always helps too. So if you guys enjoyed, don't forget to let me know, and I'll see you guys next time.